What are we? Some kind of Thunderbolts? Well, the answer is no, and you'll see why later. And I'm back at it again with another film review, this time Thunderbolts, asterisk. So, what's the story? In this one, depressed assassin Yelena Belova, played again by Florence Pugh, sister of Natasha Romanoff, is feeling depressed lately and feeling kind of a funk. Because she's been doing the same thing she's been doing for years, which is go on mission after mission after mission, and then come back home all by herself with nothing else to do. Relatable, am I right? As she was sent on a mission to get rid of some evidence for her boss, Valentina, played by Julia Louis-Dreyfus. But then she finds out that she, alongside other members of Val's secret team, have been sent out to die, and they escape, and they figure out what the reason behind it all, and also witness a mysterious individual by the name of Bob, played by Lewis Pullman, to figure out what's going on. All while to witness the most wildest scenarios imaginable. First of all, I guess I wouldn't be surprised to say that I liked it, but it seems like it's not as simple as I really liked it. There's more to it than that, because first of all, go bit by bit as usual. The presentation is quite top-notch here, because the cinematography has an identity with the way it uses its colors and its lighting. Even the way the sound mixes in just gives it like a nice pastiche that makes it stand apart from the crowd. And this movie was not what I imagined. Not saying like it completely subverted expectations, or it's not what the marketing, well, at least kind of what the marketing was saying it would be. It feels less like a traditional Marvel movie and more like a character comedy drama with action on the wayside, which is pretty impressive with how they meant to pull it off and still have it be entertaining. And it's not really to its fault. I appreciate the cast and crew for going this way, but it is not what I thought it would be. To make this review a little different, I'll be sharing some criticism earlier in the review, just so not to be completely split apart. First of all, each character. Of course, Yelena was always a standout in the last two appearances since she was introduced in Black Widow and brought again in Hawkeye. And she's still charming and weirdly relatable, likable, dry, and Florence does bring her a lot of her personal charm to it to make her different than other characters. And it's nice to see her go on this personal journey. In fact, most of these characters go on a nice little journey where they get to rediscover what it means to be a human being again, and then learn to trust each other and become a team, and then become like their own nice trusted group of companions. Then we also have John Walker, played by Wyatt Russell, where he's a disgraced former Captain America from the government as coming back from the Falcon and Winter Soldier. And he's not part of this team, and she figures out what he should do next. He does get some nice moments here, and then we have Ghost / Ava Starr, played again by Hannah John Kamen, the antagonist of Ant-Man and the Wasp, and the second one. Back then, I thought she was an okay antagonist, but here she is improved a bunch. She's now she has this cool girl personality who is kind of a lone wolf, but then also learns to be part of this team. Then we have Alexei / Red Guardian, played by David Harbour. He was hilarious in Black Widow, and he's also hilarious here. I know that he did do a lot of bad things, but was also humbled by meeting her adopted daughter again. So it's nice for him to actually do what he wants to do, be part of this team, which I'll get to more later. And then there's Taskmaster, played again by Olga Kurilenko. And we have Mel, Val's assistant, played by Geraldine Viswanathan. They all do their jobs well. Also, I did say Bob by Lewis Pullman. So it's kind of funny that about we got two Nepo babies in this, y'all. 3 if you count Julia. I know that Bob was going to be played by Steven Yeun, and Mel was going to be played by Ayo Edebiri, but they got replaced due to the strikes. But their actors do a good enough job. Well, Lewis does a great job, and the other does a decent job. I find it quite amusing that Wendell Pierce is in this movie playing a senator, knowing that he's going to be playing Perry White in the upcoming Superman reboot later this year. Of course, and it's a Marvel movie, as one can expect, it has plenty of humor, but at least in this one, it almost around 95% of it lands pretty well because it just feels very in character and in story. It doesn't feel like it's forced just for the sake of it, so that's a win in my book. I knew this was going to cover mental health, but not like this. Like, they cut in skin deep. I'll go more in depth on it later, but I'm glad they really committed to it and proposed it with dignity. To go back a bit on the characters, with Mel, she felt more like a plot device for Val and Bucky rather than an actual character, even though I did like the nice moment of her saying that when she was in high school is when the events of the first Avengers happened, and which she felt kind of inspired. And speaking of which, Bucky is back, played again by Sebastian Stan, who at this point is like an MCU veteran because he's been part of this franchise since 2011. When this movie was announced, I was hoping he would be the main character, because I thought it made sense. He's been in this long enough to lead a team, but I guess before the movie release, it started to make sense of why Yelena is the leader. Like, I can get why they can switch the roles around, and it makes sense. Like, I wouldn't call him wasted because I get he's a fan favorite, but he's already had multiple important stories in the past, and it's time to allow to have space for other people. But yeah, the mental health stuff. They do it well, and they don't half-ass it. They actually, I'll save it for later. The action scenes are quite good, but it seems like there's not as much as I thought it was gonna be. It seems like all the marketing and the editing of the trailers were like action, 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 fight, fight, fight. But it seems like what's there is all there is. There isn't any like surprise action sequences or set pieces. This is it. It was well choreographed and shot, and I guess it was quite memorable. But since it's clearly not the focus, it didn't really leave much of an impact. I remember other scenes more than the action itself. The musical score is good. It was composed by Son Lux, who have done the group has done multiple indie works, including the blockbuster hit Everything Everywhere All at Once, so I was expecting it to sound like kind of indie techno, but it does sound kind of traditionally superhero-like. And they didn't even use Yelena's theme song. Like, come on, there's like so many opportunities to use it, but they didn't. I would say it feels kind of imbalanced, where it's more focused on like the character and the writing than the actual like trying to be thrilling. So I was hoping it would be more evened out, but at least they went for a different approach. But yeah, it felt different. And for sure, there has been stuff that's been cut out or changed in the movie as per usual. There weren't any reshoots, unlike Captain America Brave New World, but there was some stuff in the marketing and the trailers that weren't in this. Like, there was this nice little gag after the dime store Captain America line where Yelena and John are chuckling, but then that's not in the movie. And some lines either have a different delivery or are done with a different camera angle. But that's it for the non-spoiler segment. Now I'm gonna give it a few seconds before I get into the spoiler segment. Okay, I'll get one of the big spoilers out of the way, since I guess it's not one I want to go in depth on. Taskmaster dies with just a few minutes of screen time, and I'm not even sure what the point of it all was. Like, I guess she wasn't a popular adaptation of the character from the comics from Black Widow, but did they do it just to get rid of her or to add some quote unquote stakes? Because I still felt the stakes without it. Like I feel there could have been other ways. And I would call it a little disrespectful to this character because I feel like there was so much to improve on with potential. So I guess that was kind of wasted because she was saved by Natasha and the other widows, and it seemed like she was going to become a better person. So it would have been nice to see her healing journey, but I guess they chose not to because the interest wasn't there. Sucks. And I guess maybe she had more of a connection to Natasha than Yelena, so probably she wouldn't care because like Ghost just shot her in the face and she did not seem to care. No one seemed to care. So at least Olga got to get paid decently for it, so I guess easiest paycheck ever. On the topic of Black Widow, I know back when it released it wasn't exactly a popular movie. I enjoyed it before and I still enjoy it now. But in a way, by bringing back Yelena and Alexei, it does make this kind of an unofficial sequel to the movie, and I guess in that way, this is a vast improvement on it just on a story level and like character level. Um, even if it did have one of the writers of that movie, it felt very different. But now to move on, what a coincidence that the limousine that Valentina and Mel use is the one run by Alexei, because then he would able to relay the information and then rescue the team. In the I guess he somehow knew what location they were at. Um, Even if it wasn't him, it was not a good idea for her to talk in front of in back of the driver because that info would have leaked out. But anyway, not to talk about one of the big stuff, which I'm sure some already figured out, but I saved it here. The introduction of Sentry. Lewis's Pullman Bob is actually Robert Reynolds, the Sentry, one of Marvel's multiple Superman clones. And here he's done very well. Like his whole storyline from beginning to end is such a standout. Like at the beginning, he's shown such a goofball with a mysterious past we didn't explain at first. But he is like a kind of like a dweeb, a charming dweeb, and forms a connection with Yelena and other members of the team. But then it turns out he has all these powers he was given from a medical study years ago, or I guess some time ago, and they made him overpowered as hell because he is too strong for his own good in this movie. But that's probably for a different thing, for a different time. It's not for here. They portray him quite well, with a wonderful comic accurate outfit and all. Wonderful. Also, I enjoyed how this was a subversion of the evil Superman trope we've been having with Invincible, The Boys, Brightburn, and others. And for being the crux of the heartfelt message of the movie, it landed quite well. And speaking of the message, like I was going to say earlier, this movie focuses on the topic of depression and mental health and feeling lonely and feeling aimless and not knowing what to do with your life, feeling like it's repetitive and not sure what to do next. And it's what these characters are doing. They're like living these lives by themselves because of mistakes or just that's how they ended up as. But the ultimate message to resolve this kind of issue is to find someone you can trust, join with them, and you can go through this life journey together. Because I guess this is what this team up is all about, because in a way, these people getting together is more poignant than the actual Avengers themselves. Because I guess, not to go too long, but the Avengers got together because of the death of Coulson and because the world needed defenders. But the thing is that showing by the sequels, they don't really like each other that much, even though they occasionally bond and are still friends. But they still have conflicts because they're very different people with a very different past. Well, like the Thunderbolts or the Guardians of the Galaxy, they can actually feel like a family where they do care each other now and would die for each other and have these emotional bonds, which is quite nice. I guess this is gonna be kind of relatable for the people who are if someone is feeling a certain negative way or don't know what to do, this is the right movie that can help them out, because I feel like the message is so on point that it could leave an impact on one if they're in the right mood. which is better than most, which I can say, like, I can just say it does it well, especially just in blockbuster territory. But anyway, to move on, um, they have the team is now by the very end secretly the new Avengers, because by the end, after they defeat Bob, well, and they go inside his head and go inside the void, because he just straight up turns all of New York City into a big shadow and sends people to the shadow realm slash the void. Um, After they get him out and he loses his memory, but he regains them later, Val sets up a scheme to make them seem like they're the new government-run Avengers, which is funny because now John Walker now goes back to being a government superhero again. And Alexei, after was once like a public hero of Russia and was in prison for years, now gets to be a hero again, but now for America. Um, they now work for, I guess, the public. I guess this time they work for Val and not for Ross like he wanted to do back in Civil War. Weird that Bucky is now part of this group, even though he wouldn't like this sort of thing, but I guess he's doing it for the sake of keeping Val in check and just actually to help out people, which is what he's been wanting to do, instead of being like a congressman with the slow, boring process. At least they can keep tabs of Val and keep sweet little Bob safe. But there was no exaggeration. Like, they really are now called by the end the New Avengers, NEW. Like, even says at the very end of the credits. So yeah, I guess this is gonna be the team. We'll see how that conflicts with Sam, but guessing by one scene, it seems like he's already conflicting with Bucky. But anyway, now to the post-credit scene. There are two of them. The first one is a pretty funny joke post-credit scene that's a payoff to the Wheaties box joke from earlier, where Alexei is some store sporting a fresh new look, where he finds that the team now has their own cereal brand, and he tries to show him off to some lady who doesn't seem to care, because even as the credits show, they're playing up the gag of people not caring about these characters. They're being like, who are these people? Who asked for this? They're not going to replace the people I know. Like, all the complaints that you hear in real life about this team, you see in the credits. Even the people inside the universe don't care about these people. And the other post-credit scene has a time skip 14 months later, where the team now now in the building. They own the building, and Bob is now a member of the team as just himself, but I guess he can still use his powers and has his memories back. And they witness an extra dimensional aircraft coming in from orbit to Earth. And the ship turns out to have a big blue number 4 on it, which means the Fantastic Four are on their way, and it seems like they're gonna meet this team first. Hopefully they can all get some good screen time, because I was mentioning before, Yelena, Bob, Bucky, and I guess John got the biggest growth. Ghost, like I said, being a standout, she doesn't really have that much growth, and we don't see her backstory memories like with the Void, with her, Bucky, and Alexei. I guess we already know the characters pretty well, but yeah, it feels a little strange to just leave them in the wayside in some parts. Alexei didn't grow at all, but at least she got to be a more supportive father figure this time around. Also, the team has brand new outfits, which I'm not really a fan of. Like, they feel like knockoffs of themselves. I'm not a fan of Ava's wig, which was incredibly fake. But still, nice enough that these characters get to come back into Doomsday. But not a peep of the Eternals. And who would have thought Ghost would have been from being an okay villain in an Ant-Man movie to being a standout here, and then being part of an Avengers movie? Like, who would have seen that one coming, especially with these new people? It's nice. Like, this is like a team. If things go well, and this becomes a new franchise where we see these characters everywhere now, I would like to see this team interact more and more. Like, who would have saw this coming? And to extend on that point, even with lesser known characters, there are some talented filmmakers out there that really care about these stories and are itching to tell it in live action. Like with Jake, like who'd have thought Jake Schreier would have cared about the Thunderbolts so much? Same thing with James Gunn with the Guardians of the Galaxy, Jack Schiffer with Scarlet Witch and Agatha Harkness, and I guess I know he's not an obscure character, but we've been seeing with Ryan Coogler with Black Panther. We, there are some people who like more than the popular characters like Spider-Man, Iron Man, the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, and I know we'll see with Max Shackman later because I know he grew up with the Four. This is a pretty decent adaptation, a solid adaptation of the Thunderbolts comics while doing its own thing. People can like the most unexpected things in life. So in the end, this a movie I liked, but not as much as others, just because I guess I didn't expect it to be like this, but it was still a good movie with actual good writing and filmmaking craft behind it, and good performances, and some good energy to it. Maybe if I see it a second time, I can enjoy it more now that I know what I'm getting myself into. It didn't click with me on the maximum level because of all that, but hey, if other people like it more than me, and it helps with Marvel's image, and we get to see more of these characters, and if for it being different and all, then hey, I'm glad it exists. This movie did a lot, and it got me a lot to think about, which is better than most, than just being a basic generic action movie. It has something to say. So now I'll leave it off to it. I give this movie an 8.4 out of 10. These people better not be dying, yo. I want to see him forever and ever and ever. New Avengers, here we go.